So this is being broadcast live on YouTube.
Okay. So just to round out tonight's events, there's a little bit of an agenda here for you. Welcome, everyone. The Greater Victoria School District wishes to recognize and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. So tonight we're going to be providing our public consultation opportunity to our community around the disposal of 7.3 acres of Lansdowne lands. We'll do a few introductions. There'll be a short presentation and some question and answer period, and then we'll let you go on your way with your evening. So in terms of trustees, I believe we have Trustee Whitaker, Trustee Rob Painter, Trustee Brian Painter, Trustee Diane McNally, Trustee Angie Hensa, Trustee Tom Ferris, and I believe we may be joined by Nicole Duncan and Elaine Leonard at a later time. The chair sends her regrets, but she's looking forward to seeing the feedback. In terms of senior staff, we have our Superintendent of Schools, Shelley Green, our Deputy Superintendent, Deb Witten, Associate Superintendent, Harold Caldwell, and we have Hillary, our Vice Principal. Thank you, Hillary, for making the time, as well as Lisa McPhail, our Communications Manager, and our Moderator Extraordinaire is Andy Canty, running the show behind the scenes. So thank you to staff for making time tonight. And if I'm correct, I think from Conseil Francophone, we have Benjamin Boudard. I'm not sure if Guy is able to join us tonight. I see Simone Couture, Marie-Pierre Lavoie, and Michelle Stemont. And I'm sorry if I have butchered any of your names, not intentional. My best efforts, thank you. And municipal partners, I don't know if we have anybody here tonight, but I know they're working closely with us and CSF. Just to give you a little bit of an overview on the project, the proposal is a land sale from School District 61 to CSF, School District 93. It's important to know that School District 93 is a public school district, just like School District 61. The lands in question are at Lansdowne Middle School North Campus. We're contemplating 7.3 acres of a 25-acre site, and the proceeds of the disposal to SD61 would be $15 million. The purpose of this proposal is to meet the needs of our community's students, regardless of school district. So we all live in the same community, we share the same students, and this proposal will meet the needs of all of our students in our collective community. SD61 will receive capital reserves for future capital upgrades, and School District 93 will own lands that they are able to build a permanent school on for their growing enrollment. And just a note, a sale of lands between two public school districts does not require the Ministry of Education's approval. Whereas if we were selling to a third party or somebody who wasn't a public school, we would require the Ministry's permission as well. So how did we get here to a place where we thought we might want to dispose of some lands? In 2018, we underwent a boundary review. We have increasing enrollment. We have some capacity pressures in our schools. We had a realignment of school boundaries to rebalance school populations to try to provide space and capacity for our growing enrollment. And so Sundance Elementary, as part of that boundary review, is required by us for September 2021 school district enrollment. CSF has leased and operated L'École Beausoleil at the former Sundance Elementary for about 6 years now, and that lease will expire June 2021. And CSF needs land to build a school to meet its growing enrollment for Francophone students. Just to give you a visual of the contemplated parcel, North Lansdowne is a 25-acre site, and the proposal contemplates 7.3 acres, just to give you some scale. In terms of how our middle schools measure up with other middle schools in the district, in this chart, we're looking at the acres, the actual size of the parcel. And so Lansdowne North, which is 25 acres, is our biggest middle school site. And just because we sort of have two campuses at Lansdowne, we're pointing out the Richmond Elementary or the Lansdowne South campus as well. So a large site, our largest middle school site. And we just wanted to also take a look at, we know this is some data that the public likes to look at sometimes, are the students per acre. And so Lansdowne North definitely has the least students per acre or the most room for students. And Lansdowne South is not far behind in terms of 17.5 and 29.4. This is the current state. And once the proposal goes through, if it goes through, Lansdowne North will still be our largest middle school site at 17.9 acres. And again, Lansdowne South won't change. And in terms of that students per acre, after the proposal goes through, if it does, Lansdowne North still has the most acres per student. When we talk about enrollment and capacity, the red line here is our capacity. So how many seats do we have at Lansdowne Middle School? We have about 875. And our enrollment showed, and so, sorry, I should also point out here in 2020, we opened the Lansdowne South campus at Richmond Elementary. And so that's why you see a change in capacity here. We were getting very full at Lansdowne North. And so we needed to add some additional space, which we did. The enrollment, our latest projections are shown in blue. We hope that these projections will improve over time as we move out of COVID. So these should trend more upward than they do downward right now, but we're in a little bit of a holding pattern here or a bit of a blip in terms of our data. In terms of a family of schools, where do our Lansdowne students go? We know some go to Oak Bay, but we're indicating Vic High family of schools here. And you can see the Vic High capacity, the Vic High family of schools capacity in red. And again, you'll see in 2020 that Richmond campus opened up. And then we move along to 2022 when the Vic High expanded capital project. That school will reopen as Vic High with an expanded 200 seats. So that's the increase in capacity in our family of schools. And again, you see the enrollment. And again, we hope this enrollment shows improvement and that these projections are really a COVID blip and not a trend. In terms of the proceeds, so CSF will pay School District 61 $15 million. And generally, proceeds of capital disposals are broken down 25% into something called local capital, which would be about 3.75 million. And the rest goes into 75% shareable capital, 11.25 million. And these funds will be used by School District 61 to partially fund future capital upgrades or new construction for our schools. Just a little bit of explanation about the difference between local capital and shared capital. They both can be used for the same thing, purchase of items over $5,000, whether it be land or buildings or vehicles or hardware or software. They're called capital purchases. The general use for local capital is minor or major renovation to buildings and a lot of furniture and equipment and vehicles. We tend to use local capital for more of our smaller capital purchases, whereas shared capital is really intended for our major capital upgrades, new builds, or major renovation, seismic upgrades, things like that. And again, the breakdown usually for proceeds is 25-75%. And this is important to note, the trigger to spend. So out of local capital, the board can spend money by board motion. It can't, staff just can't choose to spend this money on what we think needs to happen in the budget. The board needs to provide a board motion. And an added layer of accountability, the trigger to spend for shareable capital is not only board motion, but also ministry approval. And we are not able to use any of these funds on operating expenses, like a teacher or an education assistant or library books or things like that. So in terms of major capital projects and why do we need to build up our capital reserves? The ministry is starting to, and for the past few years, has required districts to provide some funding, especially around projects where there's an option. So for example, the Vic High seismic upgrade and expansion could have been a replacement, which would have been a cheaper option. But the community, through great consultation, chose a more expensive option in terms of retaining the heritage aspects of the building. And so the difference between the upgrade and the replacement was 2.6. So the ministry said, you've chosen the more expensive option, therefore you will need to provide some funding to bridge that. And of course, all these decisions are local and based on community, and they're important decisions. And so this was an important decision to the Vic High community. And so here we are. In terms of not yet approved, but on our capital plan is Cedar Hill Middle School. And this is a seismic project as well. And this one, as it turns out, the cheaper option could have been an upgrade. But given the age of the building and the bridge of about 3.5 million, we're hoping to take the replacement option. We know a new school just has that life cycle that is much longer than upgrading a current school. And the other pressure we feel around capital projects is net zero ready or net zero now. We know that the board passed a climate emergency motion in June 2019 and is very committed to advancing its climate agenda. We know Clean BC Government Buildings Program says that all public buildings will be net zero ready by 2032. And so this board wants to commit to being net zero now. So if we're going to make the commitment to go into a new building in Cedar Hill, perhaps if it gets approved with a more expensive option, we'd have to bridge 3.5. And if we were to make the building net zero now, it would be an additional 2.5. So you can see how the contributions that school districts have to start making to their capital program are starting to look significant. And so that's why we're looking to sources of funding for our capital reserves. Again, just talking about enrollment in School District 61, the catchment boundary review in 2018, and some of the resulting impacts for us. School District 93 is a public school district, can't stress that enough. L'École Beausoleil was at Sundance Elementary this year and for the past 5 years. For the years 21 to 24, they will be in a learning studio hub, sort of a campus on the Braefoot property. And by 2024, with all good wishes, they'll be in a permanent home at Lansdowne in 2024. And so that will be, that could be up to a K-12 school. We asked and indicated that it should be no more than 4 stories. It's a public school with BC curriculum. There will be community rentals, just like any other school where the floor hockey team might come in or a choir might come in to practice. And there will be some childcare on site. So just like our schools, these are the normal uses in our schools. When we're looking at capital planning, again, with a view to why now, why this, in terms of a land disposal, our capital planning principles are always safety, enrollment and capacity. It's important to have enough room for our students so that our enrollment can grow. What is the existing building condition? What kind of learning environments are we providing for our students? Climate is a lens that we look through in terms of that board motion. Learning environments, we want them to be rich and engaging. The funding categories available. How can we garner as much funding as we can through the ministry or Clean BC or other sort of categories? And student transportation is also something we have to take into account in our capital planning. Just want to talk a little bit about seismic pressure and why, again, are we trying to build up these reserves? We have 15 schools in School District 61 that are at a high risk to life safety as we designate each one. They're vulnerable structures. There could be major damage or failure if we were to have an event, and they are not repairable after the event. So School District 61 has some significant seismic projects to attend to. Another pressure we have is deferred maintenance, and we are in no different situation than any other school district in the province. We have aging infrastructure. It's only in the past few years that we've really seen a great capital injection into schools in the province, and that's been wonderful. But especially in Victoria, we have a lot of older buildings, a lot of heritage buildings, which is great, but they're not getting any younger. Deferred maintenance is a factor in our facilities condition index. And it really represents the cost of all future repairs and system replacements and when those are supposed to happen. We use our deferred maintenance for capital planning, and we use it for budgeting annual maintenance. And our buildings are audited by the ministry's contractor VFA on a 3 to 5 year cycle, as are all schools and buildings in the province with all school districts. So it's been a great database for us to start using in terms of taking a look at the condition of our buildings and when we might have to spend money on them. And again, the Ministry of Education contractor performs these audits. So what does that mean for School District 61? Our data currently shows that our deferred maintenance is $278 million. And so you can see here in the chart, the biggest piece of the pie is long-term, which is great. But even immediate is $2 million and short-term is almost $15 million. And just to give you some context, the district receives an annual minor capital called annual facilities grant funding on an annual basis of about $4 million. So if we were to apply the $4 million to the $278 million deferred maintenance, it would take close to 70 years to ever pay for those. And then the compounding age and decline of the condition of the building occurs during that. So it's just to give you a little bit of an idea about what we're facing in terms of our future long-term with deferred maintenance and what we actually get funded for on an annual basis. And just a different way to look at that deferred maintenance category. Most of the 278 million are systems that are really beyond their useful life. And when we talk about aging infrastructure, this is what we're talking about. When will the building fail? When will the roof fail? When will the heating system fail? How efficient are the windows when we talk about climate, things like that. So there's significant pressure on the district and any district in the province to be able to attend to capital upgrades without necessarily that annual funding amount being adequate. Facility condition index is another way we look at the condition of our buildings and decide how to spend our capital dollars. And again, significant pressure here. We're audited on a 3 to 5 year cycle. The FCI determines the condition of the building. It's important to note when we're looking at this data that the lower the number, the better the condition of the building. So as close to 0 as we can is where we'd like to be. And with some averaging around 30% is ideal. We use this for school district capital and budget planning. And here are some of the systems that the FCI takes into account during that audit. Plumbing, mechanical, structure, fire protection, safety, architectural, etc. And when we're looking at this data, here is sort of the banding of ranges of condition that we use. So 0 to 5% excellent, 60% and above, very poor. And this is where we start to make the case for replacement or major capital upgrade. And so just to give you an idea of what our FCIs look like in School District 61, and you heard me talk about Cedar Hill, which we're hoping will be an approved major capital project on a future announcement, is our highest FCI, which would say this is our least best conditioned school. We don't like to say the worst, but it's definitely top of the list to be attended to. And you can see on a declining basis, the FCI of the other buildings. So we sort of split this slide into two. So who was over 50% and who was under 50%? trying to remember that the lower the number, the better condition the school. And Oak Bay Secondary is our newest school and has the lowest FCI. And this is a normal way for a new school to be. And that's why we always want to try to make a case for replacement rather than upgrade. And then you can see going up how the condition changes. But these are all the schools that are under 0.5 FCI. And here's Lansdowne Middle or Lansdowne North right here. And just another picture of what our FCI looks like in the district. And again, Cedar Hill with the greatest number and Oak Bay up at the top with the best FCI in the district. And here we have Lansdowne right here in the middle, literally in the middle. So we just wanted to give you a little picture of what the project actually is, the proposal, and what some of the pressures that the district is facing and why the disposal now. Our next steps, once our public consultations concluded, the district or the trustees will give final consideration to the disposal through 3 readings of a disposal bylaw. And if approved, and CSF will go through its approval processes, then they can commence the municipal land use process to rezone and subdivide the property. Our capital planning will continue and projects will be identified for the coming years. The key dates for this consultation are, key dates for the proposal, letter of intent between the districts and a purchase and sale agreement. Community consultation beginning now, and some feedback to the board. Hopefully you have some feedback for us to let us know what you think about this proposal. And then the disposal bylaws would be read in 2 settings, 1 reading or 1 or 2 readings in May and the final reading in June, so that we're wrapped up by the end of the school year. And if you have any questions or further input that you'd like to share, you can do so in writing to community@schooldistrict61bc.ca. And are there any questions?
Kim, can you put it in gallery view so we can see the hands up?
Sure.
We have first hand up, Kelly Farish.
Hi there. I'm wondering if you've given any consideration to, my primary interest is in the field space around the school. And I'm wondering if you've given any consideration to where the school will be located within that 7 and some odd acres that are being sold, primarily with an effort to preserve like the continuous field space if possible.
Right, okay, I think I can show that to you perhaps. Excuse me, I'll just go back a couple of slides. And this will be on our website tomorrow as well. Oh. Okay, so my understanding is that the school will be built around here. And the parking and turnaround will be here and some play area here. And this will be Lansdowne lands. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I had a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, I missed the beginning of your introduction about the first 5 or 8 minutes tonight. Is this recorded where I can
Yes.
get a copy and share it with some others that weren't able to attend tonight?
Yes, I believe we're live streaming. And so Andy, that's a recording, right?
Yes, we're currently live streaming, and then the recording will be posted to our district website, Lisa.
That's correct. I'll provide a link on our Lansdowne consultation page.
Okay. And I just wasn't sure if you addressed in the beginning. I was curious how widespread was this notification of the letters that were delivered in our area. And were the people who use the field, the area that is under consideration where the playing fields are, like I'm just thinking the people that use the mixed league softball and stuff, recreation, were they also notified of this?
I'm not sure that that particular user group was notified, but perhaps some signage on the school would be helpful in terms of consultation. And Lisa, could you just update us on how we communicated the consultation, the number of letters you sent out and the emails to staff and parents and things?
Yeah, so we sent letters to over 500 recipients in the neighborhood. So everyone within a 200-meter radius and all the commercial real estate properties in the neighborhood as well. Then we ran ads in the Times Colonist and in local news, community newspapers, and promoted it on our district website. We issued a couple media releases, and yeah, we did this over a 2-week period.
Thank you for answering that. So the nursing homes were notified that back onto the field there?
The property manager of that nursing home would have been notified.
Okay.
We have a question in the chat from Anissa. I can read it out if that helps. What can we expect with regard to community consultation? We live in the neighbourhood and have not had any news about this project. We're very concerned about increased traffic in an already overcrowded and heavily trafficked area.
Right, so our consultation public meeting is tonight, and the public consultation feedback period will be open for the next few weeks. Hoping to bring a bylaw to the board on May 17th as reading 1 or 1 and 2, not the final decision. And so really feedback can be received until June 21st, which is the 3rd reading of the bylaw in terms of the disposal. And so, yeah, we encourage you to write into community@sd61.bc.ca and provide your thoughts around your concerns with traffic.
And we have Alex with a question.
Thanks. So I'm a parent of 2 children who might eventually go to this school, and I just want to make the point that has been brought up already, that this is a public school district, and these kids aren't coming from an outer space. I mean, they're kids who already live in our neighborhood. We're your neighbors. We live right beside Lansdowne Elementary. So if the school isn't built, kids will have to go to a school somewhere anyway. So, you know, we appreciate SD61 kind of helping, and I understand the argument here has been made that that's economic, but it's also morally the right thing to do to have a school for our kids to go to.
Thanks, Alex.
And we had a couple more updates in the chat. Kelly confirmed that they didn't receive any notice. Their members or board became aware from someone who lives in the area. We have a question from Rebecca in the chat. How was the land value established? Was there an independent third-party assessment which came up with the $15 million price tag?
Yes, an appraiser contracted by School District 61 provided a third-party assessment of the property.
May I ask, what's the best way to ask the questions that I have? I'm just curious as to what other existing buildings that may not be being used or other sites were considered, or like is this been an exhaustive process and the Lansdowne field is like one of many areas considered, or the first area, or?
We would say that Lansdowne was the first property we went to because it is by far, I believe, the largest property we have, and certainly the largest middle school property at 25 acres.
Does the historical aspect of the field come into play?
Not at this time, not that I know of, but we're happy to hear from you about that.
And in terms of the process this evening for asking questions, if you're on the Zoom client, there's a way to raise your hand and we'll see the order that people would like to ask questions in. And then we're monitoring the chat as well if people would prefer to have their questions read out by us. So next with the hand up is Nicole McClellan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. I'm a parent of one child at Lansdowne, and I have another one coming to Lansdowne in about a year and a half. I am fully in support of the sale of this property to the Francophone families in our community. Their kids also need a place to go to school. This is a public school. They're a public school. The mandate of the SD61 is not to provide park space. It's to provide education to children. I guess my main question is, our school district's in pretty bad shape financially right now. So why are we doing the above and beyond extra 2.5 million for, I believe it was carbon neutral? Was that what it was?
Yeah.
That's not required of us currently? Net zero.
Yeah. So we have to be sorry, we have to be net zero ready by 2032. Through the board's climate motion, we're proposing to be net zero now, and that will be a decision the board can make as it goes through its capital planning process. But that is one of the concepts or one of the potential pressures the board could feel if it's trying to fulfill its climate intention. Is it incumbent on them to invest capital dollars from capital reserves into being net zero now? So that's something for the board to consider. And it's shown as an example of one of the pressures the board may feel.
Can I just have a follow-up question to that? Does that mean that all of our buildings have to be net zero by that date, or just our new buildings?
Well, the commitment by Clean BC is that public government buildings will be net zero ready. And that means they have the infrastructure to be carbon neutral. So we could build, so for example, Vic High is going to have heat pumps, which is sort of net zero ready. But if we were able to be carbon neutral right now, we wouldn't have to worry about that with Cedar Hill or any other new builds. It's something that we have to start to consider. Net zero ready is a lesser cost, but in terms of a climate emergency, does it meet the goal of the board?
Thank you.
We have some more questions in chat. There was a follow-up from Anissa regarding plans for dealing with expected increase in traffic, and Norma asked a similar question following up on Anissa's question. Is there a proposed design available of how the school and its facilities will be situated on the property that we can access? Traffic and parking are already an issue, and will there be any green space along the perimeter? When will we be able to get a chance to see what the new school is proposing and to provide input?
I wonder if there's anyone from CSF that would sort of like, I don't know, is the plan posted on your website in terms of your consultation? I don't know if anybody from CSF would like to answer. And we understand that most of the students at the school are going to be bused. And so it wouldn't be a typical parent drop-off type of situation. I think I'm correct on that, but I don't want to speak for CSF on their plan.
Hello, this is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, I was on the way to try to figure it out and see on the website it's already there. Normally speaking, it's supposed to be there. So if my computer want to be a good friend tonight, I can come back with the answer in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Another question in the chat from Blair. What is the anticipated population of the new school, and what will the resulting student density be when the two school populations are combined?
Again, I might call on CSF to answer their enrollment question. I'm not sure what your projected enrollment is. I only know the grade configuration.
I'm going to ask Mr. El Rassi to give you a sense of the number because that's a K-12 school. Mr. El Rassi, Shafiq. Don't see him around. Oh, Monsieur Couture, do you have the answer?
No, I don't have the answer right now in front of me.
Yeah, by memory, it seems that we have something like a 400. Madame Lavoie, she's there. I think she probably have that in her mind.
Yes, and maybe Craig can, I'm sorry, where it's, yeah, the ball is in the air. I think it's 470, but Craig, you might correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a good question for sure. I know that the number has been moving around, and so we've looked at a variety of numbers. I'd hate to put a number out there that really Shafiq is working on this right now. So yeah, I'd say 400 to 500 K to 12 grade structure at this point, but I don't have a definite answer for you.
So I think it will be wise for us to make sure that as questions come in through consultation process, that we have teamed up with you to share some of these, because you will have many of the answers in the planning that you will also be going through in this project. So we will make a commitment that there's a coordinated effort to share the questions so that we can provide answers for people in the community who are curious about some of the things that would be happening with the consultation with the school. Work for you? Michelle?
I think it's important to note also, School District 93 has a lot of these projects in the hopper, I would say, and they are a school district that is spread across the province. So sorry to put you on the spot. I'm sure you've got many projects in play around trying to keep track of what enrollment is where and what projects. So thanks for attending tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Quite frankly, actually, our, let's say, to-do list is at 38 different projects. So, and yeah, we are provincial. So we are all over the map, all over the BC map. Regarding the numbers, we are, yeah, like a number of students for the attendance is between the 450, 500s, K-12. And as you mentioned, that school gonna have a daycare facility as well on site. I'm still looking to see if it's up on our website, so I'll come back later if you don't mind.
Thank you, Michelle.
And is it Ricky?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually the executive director at Parkwood Place, the seniors living residence, and I have received absolutely no communication from anybody with regards to this change. So I don't know where it was sent, but it definitely did not get to me. And I'm also curious as to where the plans will be shown so that the impact to Parkwood is going to be large, and where the plans are, like where the building is going to be, et cetera. Is that going to be posted on your webpage at some point?
Yes, we'll coordinate a link to CSF's plans.
Yeah, and I would be really interested to find out when this notice was sent out to Parkwood Place, because I never received it.
Lisa, do you know when that notice went out?
Over a week ago.
And would it be possible to resend it? Because again, I have not received anything at all.
Absolutely. So what I can do is I can message you here, and if you could provide your email address or the method that you would like to be contacted, and then we can reach out to you.
Sure. Why do you want me to, my email address is rather long. Do you just want me to put it in the message box, in the chat box?
I'll send you a private chat so it's not public, and then you can respond to that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Trustee McNally, you posted a question in the chat. Would you like me to read it? Will Victor Brodeur High School students be bused to this new facility, which would free up Lansdowne, which SD61 currently rents out for Victor Brodeur use?
Can someone from CSF answer that, or will we need to follow up on that?
Do you mind to repeat the question? I was still reading about the web page exactly to point out the information. So the question about Lemson is about, are we still there?
Yeah, the question in the chat is, will Victor Brodeur High School students be bused to this new facility?
Actually, I would say the catching area for that school that's going to have to be, might be slightly reviewed in the fact that because where Sundance Beau Soleil is and what the school is going to be, basically that's the same students that are going to be at that new school. So, and Victor Brodeur, that's another catching area. And as you probably know, we have other project for more elementary school and in the Victoria. So the catching area are pretty well defined so far. So for a quick answer, the Victor Brodeur will not be at this point impact, but you never know. 4 years down the road, things might have changed quite slightly.
So Victor Brodeur is intended to remain the way it is for the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
Okay.
A question from Alex in the chat. How did we determine the area of 7.3 acres?
Yes, that was a negotiated acreage, and the two parties agreed on that acreage for the proposal. I think it was based on the grade configuration and the type of space that would be ideally required for that kind of school and that size of school.
Okay, just a complement of information. The Ministry of Education actually regarding the building of a elementary school or building of a K-12 school, the size of the land is of course different. So actually we are kind of a minimum size for a K-12. We were looking for a little bit more. The first negotiation started with less than that, and finally we agreed halfway. And yeah, that's the way things has been, let's say, set up in a way to have enough room on the land for a K-12 school.
Next question in the chat from Norma. I would like to urge whoever is in charge of planning the new school that the area neighbors need to receive better communications and have real chances to provide community input. Town meetings at Lansdowne would be valuable.
Here, here.
Yeah, we would have preferred a town hall or an open house in a gymnasium at Lansdowne as well. Just given COVID, it's difficult to gather people like that. So that is our preferred method of consultation on things like this. But given the circumstances, I think Zoom was the best that we could do. And so we know that meeting face-to-face is a lot richer experience and available to more people. But we're glad that people came out tonight and appreciate the situation we're all in with COVID. So.
If it wasn't for the hand-delivered mail at my door, I would know nothing about it, and I live across the street from Lansdowne. I've got my various radio stations on, news media every day. So which news medias and radio stations were the advertisements?
We advertised in the Times Colonist as well as Saanich News over a 2-week period. We ran ads, and there was also media coverage by Czech News and CTV News.
We have a question in the chat from Christopher. Given that the new school will closely adjoin the Parkwood seniors residence, was any thought given to the impact on the residents? And was any thought given to consultation with the Parkwood about the placement of the buildings and recreational space?
So the question is about after what would be the next step regarding the 7.3 and how we're going to set that school on the land, or the question is how we ends up choosing that part of the land instead of any other part?
I think the question is, will the Parkwood place, be consulted? around the placement of the building?
Yeah, well, actually, as any time that we build a school, there's a public consultation. There's different, let's say, a project that might be done regarding, well, if we are going more on that side of the school or less on that side. But I think Craig might be the best one to give a sense how things are done when we ends up at the point that, okay, we own the land, then we start the project and do the consultation and do the design, that kind of thing gonna happen further down the road after, of course, the settlement of this project. But Craig, could you give them some information how that works regarding how we design, how we decide, and how we communicate that kind of part of the project?
Yeah, I guess a lot of the comments today are about, this is the first time I've heard about this. And that's because we're at the very beginning of this process. So just, I'll preface with that. There has been some thought about how the site is organized. First of all, I guess we got information from SD61 about the location on the site being in the northwest corner. And there's obviously the question of access to the site. Those are kind of the primary drivers for how the site is organized. Again, there hasn't been a lot of design intent yet in terms of how the building will be configured. But there has been some analysis of the size of the facility and likely where access to the site would come from, which would be from the north, from Lansdowne, with a new driveway intersection. But again, I guess I'd like to really stress that this is before there's even a project approved by the ministry. And so this has been focused primarily on a school district to school district negotiation of could this work? And there's been less focus on design. As the project proceeds, there's all sorts of opportunities for input about design and site organization. So I think we're hearing pretty loud and clear that the communication to certain groups has really been highlighted. So, I mean, I'm listening to that and I'm taking some notes. So I would just offer some assurance that we're absolutely at the beginning of this process.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much for that. Regarding the earlier question for information on our website, I just actually share my screen. If you go on the CSF website, you're going to find information regarding that project. And by the meantime, because we don't actually own anything so far, there's no, let's say, pages where you can write stuff and saying, I want that, or I wish to see, or I wish to be, have my words, I wish to have my say, take account here. That's going to come down later on. So if you go on our website, you're going to find the information in French and English, actually, where we are regarding Beausoleil, then Beausoleil and on Lansdowne. And then when we're gonna have set the and seal the deal, the wheel gonna start to roll, and information and consultation and comments would be more than welcome. By the meantime, if anyone wanna let's say comments about that project, there's a chat box where you can just leave comments, and we check the chat box and we answer that box as well. So that's the latest regarding where we are with that project. As long as I says, the consultation tonight, the public consultation tonight is a first step in the right direction to pass over the baton from the 61 to the 93. Then from there, we're gonna, if the deal goes on and everything is fine, the confirmation will be made public, and then this, our board, the CSF, the SD93, going to step on, and there you go. The ball gonna roll.
Thank you, Michelle. I think, yeah, it's important to note that SD61 is consulting tonight on the disposal of the land. And then further consultation through, I'm sure, CSF's own policies, as well as the District of Saanach's requirements in terms of the subdivision and things like that. So it's not your only opportunity to comment, but tonight we're here to talk about, or to consult on the contemplation of SD61 disposing of 7.3 acres.
I'm going to just jump to a couple of people who haven't had a chance to ask a question yet, if that's okay. Anissa and Ricky. We have a question from Lee in the chat. Was any land owned by SD61 other than land that a school occupies considered? For example, the large property that the school board is situated on.
We did not consider any other site except Lansdowne at this time because of the size of the Lansdowne property.
One question from Bob. Has there been any study done of where the bulk of students might be coming from? What communities do the majority of them live in? Thinking about busing and carbon generating activities, is this the appropriate location? If most of the students are from the West Shore or North Saanich, for example, wouldn't it be better to look at other locations? What if any other locations have been considered?
So from School District 61's perspective, again, the Lansdowne site was negotiated between CSF and SD61 as a desirable site, given, I'm assuming, their catchments, and that will come out in their consultation. And again, Lansdowne was contemplated because of this. It is one of our largest pieces of land at 25 acres.
And from Marilyn in the chat, would you consider sending a survey to the residents surrounding the school, including Parkwood residents, to analyze the percentage of community support? You could attach a link to this presentation so that people are informed.
We can take that under advisement.
And then Ricky, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I did. Perhaps I misunderstood at the beginning of the presentation, but it seemed to me that March was one date where you started, April is this consultation, and then June is the end of all the consultations. So that's pretty quick. So did I misunderstand that? Is this whole consultation period over and a fait accompli by June 2021, which is like 6 weeks away?
The School District 61 disposal consultation will conclude by June 21st, when a final decision would be made by second and third reading, or just third reading of its bylaw. And then ESF's consultation would start after that at some point. I don't know when.
So there would be further consultation to the community at that point in time, or no?
My understanding through Michelle's previous comments was that should School District 61 dispose of the property to CSF, then their consultation period would start planning.
So I was looking at the original picture when I saw it, and it, you know, where the 7.3 acres was where it caused the most impact to people living on Shelburne Street. And I was just wondering why that parcel was chosen rather than the one going up Lansdowne, which wouldn't impact as many people.
Chuck, do you know the answer to that one?
The Lansdowne Street is on to the north of that parcel, and the parcel is tucked into the west end of that parcel. The building appears to be, according to this drawing, and some conversation I've had with Guy Bonnefoy, that the building is likely to be behind the gas station and the furniture shop.
Park
just,
County here.
sorry, this is Michelle. I just put up a, let's say, first kind of sketch that has been used to build the case to the Ministry of Education. Of course, things might change. As you see, the parking lot and the turnaround is on Lansdowne Road, yeah. I don't know if it's helpful or not at this point, but that's what is actually on the table.
Right, so this portion down here is directly runs along the back of Parkwood Place, which is going to impact, you know, not only the construction period, but actually Parkwood Place runs right here.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, yeah.
And this had a follow-up question in the chat. I am genuinely curious to know how SD93 is able to have the money to purchase this property and build a brand new school. At the same time, SD61 is suffering with such an enormous deficit and threatening to cut music education programs at Lansdowne.
That's a very interesting question. It's funny because I was expecting something like that. As Kim stated at the beginning of her presentation, we are a public school board as any school board. We are actually for the French language population. So that's a service that the French language community has entitled as a right to have a school. We, Beau Soleil or Sundance, thank you so much for the 61 so far. Been very kind for the last 6 years, but we were not at our home. We were leasing. I don't know that many school boards in the province that lease school to do school. So we have to be, let's say, at our place, our own school, to develop our own facility in a way that we are, that we are serving our community. As you know, a school is a hub. So by the moment we're going to have our own school, we can have the daycare that's going to serve our younger one, a toddler, to serve as well the preschoolers. We can have, let's say, at night community service for our French language community. Can have the use of the sports facility as well. We can have the gathering on the weekend for the French language community as long as the English community might want at one point rent a gym or something like that. So it's we are provincial, and as I said earlier, there's actually 17 projects like that that been let's say put on the table, and that are the follow-up of the Supreme Court decision that's been made last June in favor of the CSF. And last thing at this point, it's very important to know that the CSF is 25 years old. The CSF actually own some school, and most of them are schools that been, let's say, sold by English School Board. So there's brand new school, there's not that many. We are actually building our, let's say, facilities in a way that they should be for the future. And yeah, I understand the fact that we say, how come that money goes there and that money doesn't go under the sense? That's different pocket. If you talk with the Ministry of Education, when we are talking about, let's say, deficit, we're talking about facilities, we're talking about challenges facing, for instance, to update our schools, that's a different pocket than the one for capital project. So I don't think that we actually add a special right in that matter. That's just, in fact, the way things has to be done because they've never been done before. So we have a couple of, let's say, years to catch up with. I guess that's going to be my best answer.
Yeah, I'll just jump in as well. So it's important to recognize, and I think if we went back to that local capital versus shareable capital slide, operating funds for which we are facing a structural deficit in School District 61 are different than our capital funds. And so we all in school districts, public school districts in BC, including SD93, have the ability to build a 5-year annual capital plan, and we submit that annually in June. And we put our capital planning priorities on that capital plan. So CSF has obviously made a case to the ministry that there may be a new build in their future. Just as we are facing our balancing our operating budget and may get an announcement for a capital funded Cedar Hill Middle School seismic upgrade. So the two pots are very separate, and it's important to remember that. And so capital dollars go through on the 5-year annual capital plan, which we all put in as public school districts, and the operating grants are different, which we also receive separately annually. So I'd say that's the reason there.
There's a question from Rebecca in the chat. When will the CSF be consulting on the vision and plans for this new school?
I would say as soon as possible, right after everything has been signed.
Okay, we wanted to just keep you for about an hour tonight. So are there any other questions around the SD61 disposal? If not, we encourage you to write to us at community@sd61.bc.ca. I really want to thank CSF for being here tonight. It came out in numbers, and that really helped us. Appreciate that and appreciate the partnership. And we look forward to hearing from our community in preparation for bylaw readings in May and June. So thank you and good night.
Thank you. Is it possible if I make one observation while we still have the group? If you can hear me, the letter I did receive from School District 61 from Shelley Green. Hi, Shelley. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, was worded not, and I'm understanding this is a proposal at this stage for the purchase of the land. Is that correct?
Yes.
I found the wording of the
to occur before a final decision can be made.
I found the wording of the letter nowhere said it was a proposal, and it sounded as though it was a done deal, which I really feel that has tremendous impact and ramifications in the way it was worded. Language is extraordinarily powerful. And I really feel that our community needs to know this is a proposal and they still have a say in it. And I would strongly urge that you put your name on that, Shelley, that you reread that. And I would love to know personally from you what your thoughts are on that. I really think we'd have more public input if it was.
Okay, well, maybe Shelley can respond to you offside or on the side. It sounds like we've lost you. So I am going to say good night and thank you very much. And we'll take that under consideration in terms of future communication around a proposal. Thanks very much, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.